thank you for coming to our session. My name is Julien. I'm a partner at KPMG, and I'm leading the Odoo KPMG Alliance. And today, as with my partner in crime, Antoine, and together we're gonna show you how we have our views on business transformation for corporates. There will be time to have a Q&A at the end, so we'll try to do that in 20 minutes. So before we go into the specific of business transformation, let's maybe put a few concepts on the table. What we define as a corporate, there is not one size fits all elements for that. So it's obviously not a small and not a simple things, right? So we like to have a bit of a business transformation challenge. That's the third point. And to give you an idea, it's between 300 and 1,000 plus users, if you would take a look at the user base. But we have complex environment with, let's say, 50 users as well. So the number of users is not that strict either, but those three elements should give you a good view on what do we define as corporate and business transformation. The next question you could have is, okay, for those corporate and mid-market, is Odoo a credible player in the market? And what you see today, and this is not my report, so I'm not conflicted here, let's say, but you see that Odoo today is becoming more and more in the top 10 of the ERPs in the world. Why is it like this? If you would like to pinpoint a few elements, first, it's a global player. So you do have other ERPs starting to grow, but not on a global reach, so that's important one. The second element that we find very important is that you see that in terms of functional coverage, it does cover the HR, CRM, financials, and logistics. So making a good choice if you want to have a broad set of activities already included in the ERP. You also know probably that the value for money is really good, so that's also a quite incentive to move there when you want to rationalize the cost base and still have good value. And we do see at KPMG more and more mid-market and corporate use cases at corporate level. To give you a few examples, and you will have that in a minute with Antoine, biotechs, you know, they're growing fast, so they need to move from Excel to something a bit more robust. We do see that in some cases, Odoo is a good candidate. We also see more and more corporate having the branches get on the Odoo elements and a liaison with other ERPs. But we also see big corporates moving to Odoo as a whole, and we will have some examples there. So Odoo is a quite credible player today in that world as well. What is that mid-market and corporate segment in terms of the Odoo strategy? If you remember, for those of you who attended the partners meeting back in May, Sébastien told us, yeah, we have a growth in that segment of plus 260, so that's becoming also significant compared to the small and medium players there. And Sébastien told us that they want to move from the SME to MMC and attract new type of partners. I guess that we are that kind of new partners. Who would know that KPMG was an alliance with Odoo, maybe by the show of hands in the room? Okay, so that's already a good objective for today's session, Antoine, to make some marketing. Alors, why do you need new kind of partners? If you have a bottom-up approach, which is the case in the Odoo strategy, doing more of the same will not work. Why is it like this? Because if you push more and more at corporate level, below the C level, you're missing a couple of elements. What are you missing? If you don't take that into consideration, you will need to talk to C levels. You will need to go to Stirco. You will need to make some slides to make sure that they understand where you want to go. And that's a business in its own. You need to focus on business value creation. You will need also more than probably to integrate Odoo with other platforms. And we know that in the Odoo community, that's probably also something a bit new. And you'll need to manage the change. So adopt versus adapt, and you will need to deal with a lot of users, more than probably in a lot of countries. It's not the easiest part if you take a look at that. Why today are we first credible, and how do we address that? That's the elements I'm going to cover in the next few minutes, and then Antoine will have a few concrete examples before the Q&A. First, multidisciplinary is key. We'll see that. Second, business transformation mindset. Remember, they want value creation, so you need more than to drop tech element on the table. And you will see that if you want to go fast, you need to have assets that you can deploy at clients, right? KPMG and Odoo, what is a bit the age story? Oh, sorry, a bit too quick. Yeah, remind. Yeah, sorry about that. So at KPMG, for those who don't know us, we called like Big Four. So we have a long tradition of business transformation to start with. A few decades ago, we also started with what we call alliances. I will not drop names today, but competition of Odoo from the States, from Germany. So basically, this is the picture you see top right. We have a lot of experiences dealing with technology alliances. And that's one of the elements I will also come back later on. How do we manage that to the best of the clients? We started also the Odoo KPMG accounting partnership in June 2022. Hello to my colleague behind the room, which is also giving us a strong competitive advantage because we do know how to operate the accounting there. We have thousands of clients operating on that platform, and we know how to trick and how to deal with all the specificities of the accounting. And then back in May this year, we started what we call advisory, namely the consulting alliance with Odoo. Why is it important for us? Because we can combine now the Odoo expertise. Antoine will probably introduce himself, but he's leading the team. He has spent more than 8 years at Odoo, so we know the trick as well. We've got business transformation expertise, which means we can do program management, we can bring the experts, CFO experts, logistics, ESG now coming more and more to give a few elements, and we do have the accounting expertise, and that's the perfect combo if you want to tackle that. Second key element in the recipe, business transformation framework. You need to start with the why, asking your client, why do you need to transform or why do you want to transform? And you need to nail that down. We'll give a concrete example again there. When you, and believe me, most of the time they will not tell you that in the first meeting. So you need to uncover the realities of that. And if you don't do that, you will probably fail a project because you have not the right objective. The second element is to link that to the why and say, okay, what are the core capabilities that you need to develop there? And you need to link that to Odoo, what Odoo can bring in terms of the capabilities. At KPMG, we call that connected. So basically connecting the customers, the people, the talents, the employees, all the stakeholders of the corporate through Odoo, through the digital elements. So that's the business transformation, starting with the why and connecting that to the strategy. The third element and the last is what methodology do you use? And it's also a funny fact here that if you go to the corporate level, the first stage in the Odoo methodology that they call the ROI analysis, you cannot charge that. It comes for free, it's called an RFP. So you start to invest money into that, and then you better be quick later on to get some money back at some stage. And that's what we also have. Instead of the traditional agile or V model elements, we shorten the implementation time by being quicker. And I'll see you in a moment why we can be quicker. We start with a quick vision based on what I just saw on the why do you need to transform and how do you need to do it. Validate, construct, deploy, and evolve. The names is not important. What is important is that we can save time compared to a traditional approach. How do we do that? Simple, no black magic. We have expertise at global level in a lot of projects, so we've taken all the data points on that. We've got several ERP technologies, so that's also interesting to see how you transform with the other ERPs and that you copy-paste the best practices, and you only adapt to do what you need to adapt. And we have developed a set of assets. We don't have the time to show you that here, but you will have the location of the booth, so happy to have a discussion with you after to show you more. And the assets that you see on the right are on 6 categories. So the service delivery model, HQ on one country, delivery centers in others, logistic east, sales west, example of that. The people, process technology, that's probably the 3 legs of a typical operating model. And we also add KPIs and governance to be complete. And all the things, starting with the process, we have already blueprint on how you operate that with Odoo best practices. So that's why we can basically accelerate. In practice, are we on timing, Antoine?
It will do.
Okay.
So I'm Antoine. So as Julien said, I've joined KPMG not a while ago, but before that, I spent 8 years at Odoo. So this is nice to come back, different shirt, but same event. To come to more concrete example, I will explain you 5 elements that we focus on doing at the very beginning of the project. So the vision and validate phase are first key in the success of business transformation. And we start with the identification of the ambition and the key business driver. So for us, it's not yet about talking Odoo, but it's to understand what is the company context, what are the key challenge, the ambition, and it takes some time. As Julien said, client is not going to answer you right away, but it helps us to really understand what is the purpose, what is the strategy of behind the business transformation. And when we manage to come up with what we call the focus statement, which is really a key sentence for the whole duration of the project, we are able to determine, so in the next slide, maybe I can take the... At this moment, we can really highlight what are really the objectives of the business transformation. And again, here, we are talking about objective, we are talking about focus statement. It's the very first step before we start really to go into more details about the Odoo aspects. Then we want to know where Odoo can make a difference. Companies are very complex. There are elements that are really key for the success, for their growth, but it's not always what Odoo is supposed to support. So we try to identify what is the chain of value in the company and where Odoo will make a difference, will have an impact. And as you can see in those different examples, the elements that we highlighted at the top with the numbers are where we want to focus with Odoo, because for this example, for instance, the R&D is so specific, so key that trying to deploy Odoo there for us not make sense. And so it really helps us to focus on where we can make a difference.
Antoine, maybe a note on that. That means that you need to understand the industry in which your client is operating, because you cannot just ask questions. You need to come with that upfront and challenge the client.
So the third element that we try to keep in mind and that is important is to leverage an open architecture. So Odoo will be probably one of the many systems in a complex IT corporate environment. And for us, it's important that between all those different applications, whatever the reason they are there, we can bring this ESB in between, so we can easily integrate with Odoo the existing application if we still need to use them, or specific system if it's not even meant to replace them because they are really key for the business, but also to leave the door open for future needs that may come in 6 months, 1 year, and so on. So we don't close the door to future customer needs. Here is an example of what is the Odoo coverage, and on the right, social services management, so payroll, etc., and quality control. So in the context of biotech, where quality control is really key, is very specific, those are the things that we decided to leave out of the scope of the ERP, with a strategy to still integrate that in the IT landscape. Fourth element is to define a phase approach that will deliver value. So we start from the Odoo IT landscape. We try to group that into different blocks that would make sense to be tackled together. And we articulate that in a step-by-step approach where when every element is deployed, the company sees the value, receives the value that they expect from each of the elements.
Antoine, maybe a note on that. Remember, we are corporate, so they're running on other ERP, so you're fixing the plane while flying. So these need to be planned carefully, and you also need to plan carefully the value creation along the way. So that's might sound simple, but that's also a huge discussion with clients.
And it goes sometimes just beyond than just the IT landscape. We need to consider the context, and here this is also an example on how we can phase the approach of the delivery of Odoo for a global company operating in different countries, where by focusing on a few companies for those different blocks each at a time, we can really de-risk the project while still delivering the value. Finally, something that you might be aware of, but that is still important, is to adapt whenever possible and adapt whenever needed. So indeed, customers say they want to follow the standard, but when they are confronted with actually using it, that's where it gets complicated. But for us, it's important that we also support them, and that's why change management at that moment is key, because they are looking for business transformation that will completely change the way they operate, and we need to support them in successfully adapting to the standard. Sometimes, obviously, and especially for corporates, there will be some elements that are really key, that are really important for them, that may not be covered, but at least it allows us to focus only on those elements and not do some mistakes that can happen when we replicate what they have at the moment instead of transforming. So those are 5 key elements for us that really need to happen in every project at the very beginning of each of them.
The irony is that if you want to successfully measure the transformation, you should measure the pain of the organization. No pain, no gain. That means that if nobody is unhappy with the deploy of the new system, you are not doing a good job of challenging the clients on that inform 80, 20, 2080. We say inform because we all know the 2080, sorry, but it needs to be linked to the strategy. So remember that as well. We always say to clients, people are not very happy with the change. That's a good sign. Let's continue that way. We are on good track. Maybe to close, what is our role in the ecosystem today? And maybe by the show of hands, who is a client or a future client of Odoo in the room? Okay, so I guess the other people, you're partners of Odoo, yeah? Can you confirm maybe by, yeah, and some Odoo people maybe as well? Okay, excellent. So we'll talk to each of the group first. So we have designed that because we receive more and more questions along the way since we came out of the woods in May. So together with Odoo, what we want is to bring corporate-specific methodology, knowledge, and know-how, to share a bit what we have experienced and learned in the last decades at a global level at KPMG, to apply that to Odoo. Also bridging the business tech gap on the big transformation project, and together pioneering the big corporate market again together. For the corporates, so I saw a few here. I will not come to see us in our booth. What we typically do, so we've been focusing in the discussion on the change management, which is more on the journey, how do we implement and activate Odoo, but we also start earlier in the process, and we do help C-level, CIO, CEO, CEO, depending on the size of the company. Can we challenge and inspire you on Odoo? Is Odoo the right fit for your organization? Is it not too risky? Because that's typically the kind of question we do have today, not only for Odoo, but certainly for Odoo as the new kids on the block. So we have also, let's say, the first step of the support that we can provide there. And then we can design and validate with you. This typically when client asks us, okay, we still hesitate a bit. Why shall we not do a proof of concept? And we can also there think about the open architecture that Antoine has depicted. Implement and activate, it's a bit the core of the transformation, business transformation, and we also help on the support and the engagement of the clients, on the employee, on the management, upgrades, maintenance. This is a bit technical, improvement as well. But what we do like as well is client-employee measurement and engagement measurement to see maybe we need to fix something that was not asked at the beginning. It's not because of Odoo, it's because of the requirements again. That makes sense, yeah? And then for the partners, a lot of partners in the room, so key messages. Let's join forces to hunt for bigger opportunities. That's one thing, so we do that together, not alone. And we can bring business transformation expertise together with you, and so we can also co-execute projects. This is what we've been doing in the last months. Instead of going alone, we go with the partners, so we are stronger together. I think it's time for probably a few questions. You can still scan the code, and we are at booth L7. So you need to go up and cross the main street next to the Odoo bar. We'll see you there. Thank you, and waiting for question if any. Yeah? You are a partner? We define basically together, but what we are good at is probably managing the corporate clients, change management, program management, and business expertise. And then we've got business analysis expertise in Odoo as well. We do have developers, but that's typically more something traditionally the partners will do. So developers, business analysts, then we have a joint team, and then we would take more the corporate level aspects. Yeah. Again, there is not one single rule, but that's typically what is working well today when we do partners with partners. Yeah.
Question, sorry. Question from our viewers online,
yeah.
And someone in the audience as well on the pad. Will the collaboration of Odoo and KPMG expand to other KPMG offices outside of Belgium?
Yeah, that's the goal. So today we started that in Belgium because, of course, of the proximity we have with Odoo. We have one office located next to Odoo HQ in Louvain-la-Neuve, here in Belgium. So that was a natural starting point. But of course, the ambition is to deploy that on a more global basis. We do have also offices in all the countries over the world, and so we can also reach out to our colleagues in advisory or in accounting in the other countries.
Thank you. Question here, what is ESB? ESB, sorry.
The ESB?
What is it?
Yeah, sorry for the acronym. That's the Enterprise Service Bus. So that's basically the middle tier layer when you connect Odoo to some other technical components.
Thank you. How do you find your partners, or how can partners get in touch with you?
Really simple. We find it today, and you can find us at booth L7, next to the bar.
There you go. No more questions on pad. If anyone here in the audience still would like to raise their hands, otherwise the booth is available.
Otherwise, we still have 5 minutes. Antoine, can we walk to the appendix? Maybe no. It's a joke, huh?
You got me.
For the appendix, come to see us. Thank you again. We wish you a wonderful Odoo experience.